Is it actually sinful to ride a motorcycle? And you might think that this is a pretty stupid question. So, like, of course it's not sinful. But I think if you stick around and watch this, there's a lot of interesting discussion and ideas that we can get from this. So, welcome to my channel, where we talk about motorcycles and more. And today we're going to be talking about motorcycles and Bible. And you might think that that's a strange combination, but I've been doing a lot of thinking and thinking about the direction of this channel, and I thought it would make sense to sort of come into this niche of like motorcycle riders and faith and Bible and Christianity, because it's sort of also in line with my actual background. So I have like a long background in ministry, preaching ministry, theology, things like that. So I thought maybe this is like the direction that I want my channel to go. And so today is another ride at night. I just haven't had the time. It's just been crazy busy. Every day has been something, weekdays it's work, and Saturday is soccer. I manage a soccer team. Sunday is church, and then time with the family. So I haven't had time to ride, but hopefully, in the near future, I will have some rides during the day, so we can see the beautiful scenery, this beautiful city. Hopefully, I'll get some time. Soccer seasons end. Managers quit. So, is it sinful to actually ride a motorcycle? And the reason why I'm asking this is, ever since I've started riding, I think riding motorcycle has caused me to rethink a lot of things. Things that I probably wouldn't have. It gives me a new perspective where I think about things I probably wouldn't have thought of in that way if I hadn't been riding. And I don't know, maybe it's because of the risk involved in riding. It sort of makes you think of things differently, rethink things. And so today, one of those things is, is it actually sinful to ride? Is it wrong? Is it wicked? Are you doing something wrong by deciding to ride? So I'll tackle this by asking, what does it mean for something to be a sin or wicked or evil? What makes a sin a sin? What makes evil wrong? And I'm going to we'll talk about two different views that Christians look at this, and actually when you look into it, they're two different conflicting views about what it actually means for something to be a sin. And I find that really interesting that, you can grab a whole bunch of people who are Christians, put them in a room and half of them, I mean, everyone sort of talks the same, it sounds the same, but maybe one half internalized has an internalized view of something, for example, what is sin, and the other half can have a different internalized view, which is conflicting to what the other people have. And it's interesting that can actually happen, and I think that actually happens for a lot of different concepts in Christianity, not just in sin. We'll look at the two different views. So the first view of what is sin is like a traditional view, and it is like defined as sin is actually something that is against the will of God. It's something that if God doesn't want people to do things, that's sin. So you're doing a sin when you go against what God wants you to do. And this is so it's all about God and what God wants. That's the whole idea about it. And there was a famous theologian who sort of coined this idea. His name was Augustine. He was like 3,000 years AD. 300 years AD. And that sounds all well and good. It sounds sort of like it makes sense until you start comparing it to the second view that you can see is what is sin, and that is sin is something that you do that hurts someone else. So when you take something from someone, or when you hurt someone, when you harm someone, and so it's more based on ethics and morals. So that's the second view. And so it's like when Jesus says, all the laws are down to the two. Love your God and love your neighbor as yourself. So it's sort of just down to love. If you love someone, you wouldn't do anything to harm them. So the second view is more like an ethical point of view, a moral basis. And there was a famous theologian as well, another one who perpetuates this idea, and his name was Thomas Aquinas, if you're interested in that. So he was around 1700 AD. And so, like, the way I see it is, the first view of, sin is going against what God wants, is more around what we do for God. And the second view is more about, it's not what we do for God, it's actually God is trying to help us. By giving us, laws and telling us what's sinful and what's not sinful. And so, the first view, you can have, do something that, people, the world might consider immoral, wrong. But, if God considers it that that's right, then you need to listen to God, or else you're being sinful. But the other way is, you need to look at what you do, how it affects people. So now that we've sort of got this unpacked, we're going to ask the question, is it sinful to ride a motorcycle? And if you look at it in the first view, which is like the laws that God, the will of God and what God wants, well, it's not sinful to ride a motorcycle because it's not mentioned in the Bible. God doesn't say anything about, even though motorcycles weren't invented back then, God doesn't say anything about anything similar to this. So God doesn't seem to have any objection, and therefore it's not sinful. But if we think that sin is what we said in the second point, which was being more based on morals and ethics, well, in this way you probably can see that writing can be seen as sinful. In terms of morals and ethics, the basis of self-harm. So, motorcycle riding is risky. There's risk involved, so there could be that sort of self-harm aspect. Also, if you have loved ones who object, you can be causing them worry. So you're causing someone to worry, so that's not acting in a very loving way. So, from the second moral and ethical perspective, you can see that maybe writing is sinful. But what I actually want to point out is that even if you look at it in the way of moral and ethically, I still don't think that writing is sinful under the umbrella of self-harm, because the thing is, writing is not actually that dangerous. It's quoted a lot that writing is somewhere between 35, some people say 42 times more risky or more dangerous than driving a car. But when you actually look into that statistic, you'll see that a lot of the factors for that statistic involve things like speeding, drinking, alcohol, and not even being over the limit, just having any alcohol in your system. Not wearing protective gear, not wearing a helmet, not being properly licensed. When you put it under those umbrellas, that makes up 80% of that 35 times higher risk statistic. And so your risk level actually varies a lot by riding a motorcycle, and it's very dependent on your actual behavior. Some people have even gone so far to say that you can ride in a way where it is less risky even than driving a car. So there's this statistic from the NYPD where they look at police department car drivers versus the motorcycle riders, and per mile they were quoted half as many incidents on the motorcycle as they did in the car. There's a lot of people who actually think that riding in a certain way, because of the characteristics of a bike, being able to maneuver and avoid things, can be ridden in a way that's actually less risky than driving. But I think that would probably require a lot of skill level. But if you look at the actual regular rider, I think that simply removing reckless or illegal activity from your riding habits brings your risk level down to being manageable. Acceptable. That's why even insurance companies, like life insurance and things like that, they don't care if you ride a motorcycle. And if anyone would care, it would be them, because it impacts them directly financially, and they would invest a lot of time researching in these things. So from a moral point of view, ethical point of view, I think if you ride in responsible, legal manner, then you're not adding too much risk, and therefore you're violating the self-harm idea morally or ethically. But if you do speed or drink or ride recklessly, then it does become sinful because you are moving into the high risk self-harm area. So I think that actually makes sense. Another reason why riding can be seen as sinful is because it just feels so good. Like, it just feels so good to ride that it's gotta be sinful. So anyway, that's all I've got for you guys today. I hope you like the content. If you like it, please hit that like button. And if you sort of like the direction I'm going with, we'll see how long. I'm just sort of seeing how it goes. Subscribe so you can see more of the content